Computex 2026 coverage is proudly sponsored by Phanteks, with support from Asus ROG, NZXT, Haven, and Cooler Master helping us bring you wall-to-wall coverage direct from Taipei. Okay, so here we are at the Hyte suite over in Computex 2026. Got a few things to talk about here. So we got the Y50. Let's talk about what makes this a little bit different. So what you may have noticed as we built in the Y60 and the Y70 is if you're running fans and AIOs in the backside right here, the end tanks, some AIOs or the end tanks are getting larger and larger because of either stacked cables or maybe they just have a larger tank for more volume of fluid. It can start to impact on the bottom. So they've kind of scooped away some of the case right here to give a little bit better clearance for obviously your vertical mounted fans and AIOs. But also, what you may notice is it comes with 4 fans. It's got a unified frame fan, so it's 3 120s in one frame back here. But more importantly, it's kind of difficult to see here, and we'll show you in a sec. They've kind of dropped the entire Nexus Link. That is sort of big news because one of the biggest complaints about any company that has a proprietary connector is you're locked into that ecosystem. So by getting rid of the Nexus Link aspect of it, you now open yourself up to be able to run any RGB control software that you want, whether it be motherboard controlled like OpenRGB, some sort of a third-party hub, something like that. Now you can run it however you want. Also, traditional GPU layout, because you'll know the Y series, especially like the Y70s, were vertical mounted only. So now you can see you can run full-size graphics cards, 5090s, no problem, and you can run them in a traditional orientation. So that's kind of nice and unique to see. But more importantly, if you haven't seen the X50 or any of these other Y series case that have these giant silicone grommets in there, the amount of money and tooling it takes to make them perfectly match the other materials is insane that they can still have this price point that we'll mention here in a second. So there's multiple materials when it comes to making a case. You've got this steel that's got to be powder coated. You've got the plastic like you'll find in the base right here. You've got the silicone grommet. That's 3 different materials, and making them all match by using, say, the same paint or powder or whatever on 3 different materials, you get 3 different results, a lot of different results. So the amount of time that Hyte has been known to take to make sure that the materials all match perfectly across all their different color schemes is what makes it impressive. Especially the fact that this case comes in at $99.99. So Hyte has started making some changes to be able to make sure that they can appeal to a broader consumer base. They're not being locked into the Nexus Link ecosystem, but you're still getting all of the quality and things that Hyte is known for as a premium brand, but now at a more affordable price point for the more general consumer. And that's not just a move that's having to happen, because of everything happening in the industry. I mean, to be fair, there's probably a fair amount of that happening with everybody. But just making sure that you have a product that can compete with the constantly ever-evolving economy shows that having a premium product at $99, this is like the new price point now that I think people are comfortable with, feeling like they spent a decent amount on a case. $100 is, in my opinion, just a couple years ago, $100 would be considered a more budget-friendly case, where $150, $200 is where people were comfortable spending. Times have changed. $100 now, but you still get all the Hyte quality behind it. So this is why the Y50 RGB is kind of a fun product to talk about. I've said it a million times, Computex is definitely very case con, if you will. We kind of see early samples and early renditions usually shown at CES, and then their physical form is in Computex. But this year, it's kind of interesting because so many companies have had to pivot in the last 6 months alone and make completely different design choices, and seeing how they're kind of each individually approaching the industry is what's actually making this kind of interesting. Let's talk about this over here. So we've got some new fans that have launched. These are the THICC FR12 Solos and this is the Trio. So we're kind of seeing a common theme now. A lot of companies are now going to a unified frame type of fan. But once again, this does not run Nexus Link. Nexus Link, as far as you know it with new products moving forward, is kind of gone. They are going to, and I'll grab a cable right here, they're going to what is a proprietary connector on their end to the standard connectors across basically the entire industry of a 5-volt ARGB 3-pin header and a PWM 4-pin fan header. Now, doing that though introduces some of the limitations that Nexus Link was intending to kind of alleviate. One being voltage limit. 5 volts is not a lot of power. And the more devices you connect to it, the more that 5 volts is getting divided up, especially with the fact that it's carrying data as well, means you do have some inherent limitations now. So if we talk about the THICC FR Trio here real quick, there are 68 LEDs in this frame. Now initially when I saw that, I thought for sure we were going to see more, because some of the other frames we've taken a look at, like frame style fans, have been as much as 124 LEDs in one frame. You can fit 3 of these on one header and not run into an issue with data or power draw. But one of the reasons why they've been able to achieve that is because they've done some magic here when it comes to the amount of diffusion that they're doing in the lighting rings here, that they've been able to master the effect without it looking dim, or having to pump a lot of LEDs in here to make up for the amount of space that they have here. So they've used diffusion technology to just very efficiently get the light to spread evenly. So you can see we've got lighting on the edge right here, and then we've got lighting around the blades. But if we take a look at the one that's not running here, there's no hub lighting or anything. It's all just taking place right inside this translucent plastic that is on both sides of the frame. So you can see here it does have a reverse blade and a standard blade design. Initially they had toyed around with trying to make it user serviceable, so you could have one product that you could flip and basically change the blades themselves and reorient them and maneuver the frame to either go with a standard blow style or a pull style in a reverse blade. It cost would have been about $10 more, he said. Yeah, only about $10 more, which I think is actually reasonable. But through their own kind of surveys and doing some focus groups, if you will, found that most people would rather just buy a cheaper fan and not deal with any of that and spend $10 more to have the option. My personal belief is anything that's user serviceable is also can induce user error. And so I think that's probably the right move to do that. Now you might be asking yourself, how much are these fans? Because fans for a while there were becoming ridiculously expensive across all manufacturers. We were getting room to accept $50, $60 fans for one fan, triple packs costing $120 or more. The price on this is $44.99 for the Trio, and it is $19.99 for the Solo. So it's kind of a crazy price point, and I think this is some of the good things for consumers we can see coming out of the crazy economy shift, is the fact that brands are having to find a way to compete at lower price points but keep the quality up. Anyone can make a cheaper product and it can feel and look cheaper, but if the product feels quality and costs less, that's how you get a very loyal buying consumer or a loyal consumer to your brand. Also too, I forgot to mention these are daisy chainable, so you can see that we have 2 plugs on each end, so you can continue the signal on to other devices in the system. So let's say you had 3 of these like on the motherboard wall back there, you got 3 more on top. You can just have one input to this, daisy chain to the next product, and off you go. And the fact that you can run 3 of these on one header means that you obviously are going to have enough power to be able to deal with all that. So this is the hub now that's controlling these devices you see on the table. So as you can see, they have standard fan headers and they have standard ARGB headers. And so these are being fed by SATA power, so you can make sure plenty of input power to the hub so it can distribute the power. And then each individual header itself is what's going to kind of have the limitation of how many devices can be connected to that one 3-pin header. And then obviously the noodle right here, which was really popular. They had, it was designed to kind of really fit in the Y70, and then obviously, from there they made it work with other models that they have. They have these, double-sided tape angled holders, I guess you'd call it, so they could fit the bottom of the case and really kind of fill it out with lighting. But the noodle was debuted as a Nexus Link product, and now this has also been adapted back to the standard 3-pin ARGB design. So now if you want to run a noodle in something else too, and not have to run Nexus Link, you can, because they've really brought this back to being the more kind of open standard. Works with open RGB. But the cool thing is, when we talk about with Nexus here in a second, because Nexus has changed entirely from what you guys know, these all have ID chips in them. So even though they are no longer using the Nexus connector, which I thought was cool, we daisy chained one all the way across the office one day. The problem was the Nexus ecosystem didn't really scale out the way it really needed to for it to make a lot of sense. So them going back to this kind of a standard deployment makes sense, but there's still ID chips in this. So when you run Nexus, each individual component, although using the more standard connector, is still identifiable in the software so you can control it. So let's go take a look at that, because it's changing everything you've ever seen when it comes to how RGB is controlled. Okay, so this is the Nexus you're kind of used to seeing right here. It's got a lot of bubbly graphics. It was really intended to just kind of be a fun, bubbly, almost like an anime style interactive HUD, if you will, or heads-up display for all of the devices that are connected. That worked with OpenRGB. Remember, Nexus was and Hyte was one of the first companies to really kind of redesign from the ground up, getting onto PON.io when you were dealing with all of the authentication issues and antivirus and such. So PON.io was a big deal with that, and it worked with OpenRGB. But the problem with it is it's kind of heavy. I mean, all RGB software, as much as they try and make it lightweight, anything that is constantly pinging devices and trying to communicate with it does induce some sort of impact on the system. More are lighter weight than others. Some just don't care, and it's like having an anchor attached to your system, and it just kind of really drags things down. This is Nexus, well, you can't see it yet. This is Nexus 3.0, which is now entirely server-based. So you launch the app, and basically it has its own local host here where it's now connecting to all the devices that have a device ID, whether they're running on the old Nexus Link or they're running on the new standard, back to standard plugs. And this allows you to take full control over your system here when it comes to, monitoring. You can see a lot of different telemetry in the system. You can control your lighting. There's a lot of pre-baked in lighting effects, cooling control. The fans are all set up right here with different fan profiles and such, which all seems like great, but here's the thing. You can actually start controlling this on many different app or devices here. So you can even use your phone. So at the bottom left right here, you'll see this button that says Pair Remote. And basically what it's gonna do is it's gonna pop up a QR code. Any device that is sharing the same network that this system is on will be able to now access this, and this can become your host and not have to have this web browser open that is connecting to the devices. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that right now. Go ahead and scan this. And this is automatically going to open up, it's called Hello Nexus. It's gonna go ahead and open up the same control panel here on my phone. It's authenticating, connecting to the server. So it's a little slow here because of their setup for the show. But yeah, you can cycle through the different color modes, the different RGB style modes. Like this one's called Plasma. Let's see here. It's a little delayed, like I said, though, because for the show, the internet's really bad in the hotel. So they kind of set up their own service, and I'm connected over LTE. That's not the way it's going to be when it comes to the end user. It's going to be devices connected on your own local internet or intranet, and then it's much, much faster. But check this out. So we can even control the fans, too. So I'm going to put it up to turbo mode. So the fans are all going to go full blast now. Yep, you can hear them speeding up. You can see the CPU usage, you can see memory use, all sorts of stuff here. But the cool thing is, I'll go ahead and quiet this back down for them. The whole point here was to make this as lightweight as possible. So once I connect on the phone, if I wanted, I could close this down on the local host, which is the main computer everything's connected to, and then I could just do it from my phone. Or you can also use Nexus 3.0 on a Mac. You can also use it on Linux. So when's the last time you heard of a company designing an app that works on PC, Mac, and Linux? Yes, this right now, this Nexus 3.0 is showing you all the telemetry and stuff on this Mac. So once again, Nexus is kind of taking things a step further where a lot of other developers kind of stop with just the PC and developing a well-rounded app that has local connect and works on basically all platforms. Okay, and this is a new product they have coming out actually in 2027. This is the Y50 Taipei 101 edition. No, actually this is a mod that was sent to them by Vampire Doll. This is pretty sick. It's got this whole Taipei 101 kind of a theme going on. It's even got, what was his name? I forgot his name. The guy that climbed it. Crazy, that's his name, Crazy. He actually free climbed this building. If you haven't seen the video, it's nuts. I couldn't watch the whole thing because I'm afraid of heights. Like when I was up here in the observatory, I took my photos and then I went back more inside the building. But anyway, just a fun tour here at Hyte. It's really interesting to see how companies like Hyte are pivoting and really kind of still staying true to who they are, but also adapting like so many people are having to in this industry to not just stay relevant, but stay viable. And I think I like the move that they did by kind of getting rid of Nexus Link. Although it was great, I do like things that interconnect. I don't like things that lock you into an ecosystem. So seeing it now be the Hyte's touch on a standard system, I think that's good for everybody. And it cuts costs for them too, because to continue to develop and produce product that's locked into an ecosystem means they're incurring a lot of cost too on not only just R&D, but also manufacturing. So how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about Hyte moving away from Nexus Link and going to more standard connectors? But how do you guys also feel about the Y50 price point at $99, but also including all of the standard Hyte quality you guys expect? All right, guys, thanks for watching our coverage here at Computex 2026. This wraps up day one for us. Got a lot more to see, so stay tuned, and as always, we'll see you guys in the next one.